All right. So let's go ahead and get right into it. You were born and then stuff happened. So tell me something, if you want to, about your earliest memories.
Whew. Uh, Memory is definitely not my strong suit, but I guess I could say that I didn't really, starting from a gaming aspect, I guess, because that's really what my channel's about. So I didn't really play any sort of games for a lot of my early life. It was just sort of, I guess you'd almost call it like the old-fashioned sort of growing up. Like I didn't really play too much for games and stuff. But there's not anything really spectacular about my childhood that stands out to me.
Okay. So, family life. Did you have a yard? Did you have a dog?
Yeah, I actually still live in the house that I grew up in with my parents right now, but both my mom and dad have been together my whole life. I have one younger sister and one younger brother, and we've always had a pretty sizable yard. We didn't have a dog when I was a kid, but we had one when I was, I believe, in middle school is when we got the first dog. He ended up getting Lyme disease and didn't make it, but we have
Oof.
2 dogs now, and they're quite something.
What type of dogs are they?
The smaller one is a Chihuahua Beagle of some sort mix,
Oh my
very
gosh.
small, and then the other one is an Australian cattle dog lab mix, but you'd never know that he's part Australian cattle dog by looking at him, but he's very much he'll try to herd you. Like he'll like nip, and he's very protective.
So does he also jump into any body of water that he sees?
Yeah, my mom will take him for walks, and he'll go and swim and kind of chase after stuff that's in the water, but he's surprisingly skittish around water at the same time. He's a really weird dog. Like he'll bite anybody who tries to like come in the house or anything, which is good in a way, but also not that great. But the instant you bring out like a power drill or something, he becomes the biggest baby. He'll leave the room, go all the way upstairs, and hide. It's the strangest thing.
Yeah, that sounds like a herding dog, and then the lab thing. Everybody just expects labs to love the water, but he's got a little bit of that Aussie skittishness in him. You can probably hear the little larva baby in the background.
A little bit.
She's making her comments about dinner.
It's nothing compared to the background noise that I was trying to avoid. It's quite something when my brother's playing Fortnite. I'll be in like a chat, and it'll just be like a screech in the background. It's obnoxious.
Uh-huh. That's the general impression I've gotten from the game, is that there's something of an obnoxiousness to it, to put it that way. How do you feel about Fortnite, just off the top of your head?
I've never actually played the Battle Royale version. I actually bought into the alpha back when it was first releasing, because I expected it to be something far different. I almost regret doing that after what it became, but I saw a lot of promise in the game. I think they screwed it up when they made it just a standard Battle Royale game, but I mean, you can't argue with the results it's had, but I'm not much into Battle Royale.
Yeah, they totally... I followed it a little bit when I was playing Warframe, of all things. They were talking about Fortnite and how it had been basically gutted and turned into a Battle Royale just because PUBG was so popular. And, well, it worked for Fortnite in terms of popularity, but it was something of a... You could almost call it a slap in the face to the people that invested in it early, because it was a complete change of what the game was heading out to be. But that's what happens when you when you buy into something before it's finished,
Yeah.
it's completely possible for that to happen. So yet another reason to never pre-order. But at the same time, if you don't support things early, a lot of times they just fall apart these days. So thanks for putting in your hard-earned cash to try and make something neat happen.
I mean, I don't regret paying into it. I had fun when I first played it. I actually made videos on another channel that I barely even remember what the name of it was, but with one of my friends from high school, and we made a couple videos on it back way before everything happened. I kind of have a tendency to do that almost, where I'll catch on to a trend so much further or like way earlier than I should. So like I hit the trend of Fortnite about 6 months before it became a trend. It's happened a couple times with different things, but I found with the War Thunder memes that worked, so we're gonna roll with that for now.
Yeah, those have been really popular, and you've done a good job of putting those together. And one of the things with memes is that there's just so many of them, and they're really accessible to people, which is one of the reasons they're popular. But at the same time, because of that, they can get really stale and tired. You know, you see the 600th Pepe meme, and you're like, okay, Pepe's still good, but this is bad.
Oh, yeah.
But one of the things that I enjoy about the memes that I've seen on your channel is that they're not cut and paste. You put some thought into how things are paired up, and you got a good sense for comedy, in my humble opinion. Let me see if I can actually put these videos in order of sort by oldest. Let's see the ancient things on your channel real quick.
Yeah.
MrSteve Crafter Blockade 3D gameplay.
Yeah, there was a previous name for my channel, which is evident when you look at the URL. It used to be MrSteve Crafter. My actual name isn't even Steve. It's a story about how that happened. I guess, you know what, I might as well tell it here. So basically, when I was making my channel, it was back when Minecraft was popular. And, you know, me being, I think it was like
Minecraft
12 or
Steve.
13 at the time, yeah. But that's not actually why. The reason why I got the name was I was using a fake name to make the Google account, and I just put in Steve Crafter, and MrSteve Crafter was one of the automatic results, like a suggested name, and I was like, hey, I like the ring to that. And then I later on changed it to Gamer, because I was like, oh, I don't want to be only Minecraft oriented. And
this is a gaming channel, so teenage mind, I'd better put gaming in the title of my YouTube channel.
I've always thought to change it, but I'm just so bad at making names that I just kind of am gonna roll with it for now.
It's a good name, and you know, you've definitely gained enough traction that it's gonna stick. Now you're stuck with it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm dealing with.
War Thunder memes part 2 a year ago. My goodness, so you've been at this for a while then.
Yeah.
And as far as YouTube time.
I partly started, I don't remember if I believe it was before I left my first job, but I had started it, and then a lot of the reason why my channel took off after that was because where I was working, they decided not to keep me there, so I started like doing a lot more for YouTube for that time before I ended up starting on my new job. So that helped a lot. I think that was around when I had like 600 subs, so I used that to I think I got to around 2,000 until I started like working, and then I was able to upgrade. So now I'm able to make higher quality content.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I've watched some of your older memes videos, but I haven't watched some of your older non-meme videos, so I'll have to do those just for my own personal education. I'd love to see how people start out their channels because, well, you're not all that sophisticated at that point, and it's great encouragement for people that are starting their own channels that they're allowed to do things that you might not be so proud of anymore.
Oh, there's close to probably 200 videos that aren't public on my channel. I won't delete them because at some point I will probably release some of them again, at least in some aspect. But there are a lot of that I hid, not so much because I'm embarrassed of them per se, but just because I don't want that to be the first video someone finds of me and them to think that that's what my content is now. But yeah, there's a lot of those.
No more MrSteve Builder videos, huh? Well, you mentioned that you have a brother and a sister. I'll put in a little bit about myself here, is that I was definitely rivals with my younger brother, but my older brother was just so ridiculously chill that I could never get him to start a good rivalry. How are things between you and your brother?
Well, I definitely don't have the best with my relationship with my brother, mainly just because he irritates me so much with all the background noise, because it's so hard to focus on working on something when all I hear is screeching. And I don't mean like just being loud, I mean like legitimate screeching. Like, it's kind of embarrassing to some aspects, but other than that, I kind of just keep to myself.
Okay, so you would value a bit more privacy.
Oh, definitely.
But you respect your brother enough to let him pour himself into the passions of Fortnite. Now, did he say that he's your younger brother?
Yeah, younger.
So what's the age gap between you two?
About 7 years.
Well, so yeah, I'm starting to see why you would. At that point, you're really a big brother, and shoot, you would have been going to school when he was still in diapers. So
yeah, I was in school when he was born.
What was that like?
It was definitely interesting. It's something that, I mean, I feel like a lot of people have that because a lot of parents have kids later on after they've had the other kids, but it's definitely interesting, and it makes it a lot easier when you start, like you kind of learn a bit more about like kids and stuff as they're raising, so it'll probably definitely help me in the future if I ever have kids.
You changed any diapers?
A couple, I think, but I was like, I think 7 at the time, so I wouldn't have been old enough to really help that much.
Yeah, I have an almost 2-year-old and a newborn, and the big sister is really interested in helping out little sis, but she doesn't even know how to do most people things yet. She barely talks, but she tries. She wants to be involved. But that's just the kind of girl she is. And, it's not too much of a stereotype to say that little girls really love babies in general, and then brothers are just kind of expected to stay out of the way. So, you have a brother and a sister. Both of your parents have been together for your whole life, which is awesome. There are a lot of people that have not experienced that, and I gotta say, huge thumbs up to mom and dad for sticking through it, because I know that nobody can get under your skin more than the people that are closest to you. And so that's just an awesome thing. So, how old are you now? I don't know if I asked that question yet.
I'm 19.
19. So you're a man. Is there something you're looking forward to? You'll be just out of high school, right?
Yeah, been out for about 2 years.
So what's the plan?
I don't really have too much right now. I'm just kind of trying to work and get what money I can saved up so that in the future when I move out or whatever ends up happening, because we do have oh, my monitor just went to sleep. We have an apartment that my uncle is currently living in, and potentially I'll be moving out there sometime within the next year, hopefully, if everything works. So that would be nice. I'd have my own space, but if not, in the future at some point I'll be moving out, but I don't have any definite plans currently.
Okay. And you've talked about a job you had previously and the job you have now. What have you been doing now to make money?
Oh, my first job I went to a tech school, so I was able to do work-based learning, which is essentially you can, during school days, you can go and work at wherever businesses are hiring for your specific trade, which mine being a machinist. So I worked
Oh,
and
awesome.
ran machines and stuff. And they kind of were, it was kind of weird there. Wanted a lot of overtime and stuff, and it wasn't really something that I wanted to do right at that point, because you're just getting out of school and you don't want to be working constantly. And they ended up just
Hmm.
not keeping me for that reason. And I didn't work for about over the summer, and then I ended up getting a job at the same place that my dad works, which is I do basically the same type of work, just a little bit different.
Okay, so you've tried your hand at things like a lathe and other machining tools that I can't name off the top of my head. Have you done any computer-assisted design machining or anything like that?
Yeah, I learned how to use Mastercam when I went to my high school, and then they use FeatureCam where I work now, which is similar but different. But I'm I have all my NIM certifications and everything for that, so I do have I've got the certifications and stuff that I need, and I know what to do with that programs. But it has been a while since I've ran it, so it would take me a while to pick it up again, I'm sure.
Well, with the skills you have and the openings in the market for that kind of position, you don't have to stress out about schooling or you don't have to worry about finding a job. When you want one, you'll definitely be able to find one. And I have a couple of cousins that are in that sort of line of work, machinery, I guess, and they just have a total blast. So, is this something that you wanted to be a machinist and get into the inner workings of neat, crafted objects, or is this something you picked up later? What did you want to be when you were a little kid?
I've never really been one to have like a specific, oh, this is what I want to do. When I went to high school, they did what they called an exploratory program, which you basically go through all the different trades and then you pick yours at the end. And I liked machining the most, so I took that, and I do enjoy doing it. I mean, my dream obviously is to be able to support myself full time off of YouTube. I think that's anybody's dream who does YouTube content. But for the time being, I know that that's not realistic. So I'm just working and hopefully getting to the point where I can support myself off of that. But if not, stay with machining.
I've never seen someone demonetize a cog, so it's good to have that as a skill that's in your pocket. You seem like a really down to earth guy. You keep things simple. You have skills that you can use on into the future, no matter what happens with YouTube, which has got to be a huge comfort to you. Um, Nobody knows what the corporation is going to do from one day to another, and I haven't gotten around to monetizing anything on my channel yet, which just saves me from a ton of headache. If you had any advice, since you are part of the generation that really saw the rise of YouTube, I almost feel like it's your generation and not mine, because I'm what, 12 years or so older than you are, and I'm not quite, I feel a little bit too old for YouTube. But if you had some advice for someone who's looking into to getting into YouTube and they have the time to make videos, what advice would you give them?
Well, the main thing that I try to do with my channel is I try to be somewhat unique with the content that I make. In this day and age of YouTube, you can't really do that because almost everything has already been done. So the way that I try to look at it is, if I see something like, say, Fly Daily or somebody else does a video and it's a gameplay video, I say, how can I do this, but how can I do it different enough that it's either unique to me or it doesn't seem like I'm just copying? That's kind of where I went with the meme compilations. Like you were saying, you can see like the quality difference in them. Those original ones I started doing, I used the editing software on my PlayStation to make those, and I couldn't track the images, so I had to very specifically pick clips that would work with each meme that I wanted to make. And then
Wow.
eventually I was able to get a laptop, which I was able to use for tracking images with the software that I bought. And it's just slowly progressed there as I've learned how to use the editing software better. But it's definitely try to be unique, but you don't have to be so unique that you're just like putting yourself into a very, very small niche. Like I've been trying lately to branch out a lot more and do more content that'll appeal to a larger array, because with what I've seen with War Thunder lately, it makes me a little skittish to just keep myself only War Thunder related, because
Hmm.
you never know how long the game will last. So I'd rather have at least a small group who will follow me for other games as well. So if I need to transition to something else, it's not start all over.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I looked at some of your earlier videos and I thought I saw the X symbol and I said he's recording on PlayStation. And then I thought, did he actually edit this on PlayStation? And I was very impressed because I've taken a look at how the editing software is for PlayStation as of what, about 6 months ago, and it's not all that impressive and it's not all that easy to use. So, or at least I should say it's not all that efficient. But that's awesome. So your advice is do what you can, use what you have, and learn your way up to using new things. And then as your skills developed, you looked into expanding your content out beyond the thing that inspired you to start making videos in the first place, or at least inspired the bulk of your videos. Does that seem pretty fair?
Yeah, that actually is a pretty good summary.
That's what I do. That's how I prove I was paying attention, you see. So, you mentioned that you had a pretty normal childhood, and you'd be surprised how rare that is. Did you play any sports in school?
I've never really been into sports and stuff that much. The most that I ever really watched for a technically a sport would be I watch the Daytona 500 occasionally, but what I really started with for gaming was I believe it was the Super Nintendo. That I don't know who even owned it. I still have the thing somewhere, but I used to play that a lot and play some of the older Nintendo games. And then I also played on my aunt's PS2. I had some of the NASCAR Thunder games, ATV Off-Road Fury 2. I actually still own most of those games. I need to get my PlayStation
Oh,
back from my friend that I loaned it to. But I
I
played.
remember that game specifically. That's a good game.
It's one of my favorite games of all time, and I can't find it on PC anywhere. So I need to get my PlayStation back so I can play it again. But I got into later on Star Wars Battlefront 2, which I played so much of those that it's ingrained into
Oh
my
yeah.
very being. And then the game that really kind of took me to the next level of playing games was Minecraft, which explains a lot. But I ended up waiting. I played it on my uncle's computer back way when it was like just out of beta. And then because I've always been interested in Legos and building and stuff, that's building is one of the things that interests me and why I went into machining, partly because designing and everything, that's part of what interests me. So I played so much Minecraft once it came out on the Xbox that I think that's the only game that I really ever played on it. Later on, I kind of got into, once I ended up getting a summer job painting my dad's boss's deck, which I used to buy myself a PlayStation 4 so I could get into the current gen of games. And then I kind of just slowly accumulated more and more games, and now I'm now I'm here with a expensive gaming PC because I can't stop myself.
Must be nice. Um, so there's the story. You got into games and you were interested in games where you could be creative, and Minecraft has definitely been one of those famous outlets for creativity, and that's obviously one of the main reasons it's still alive and kicking today. I'm kind of curious, have you ever played Kerbal Space Program or Besiege?
I have not, but I know of both the games. I've just never played either of them. One of the games I did play that was It's kind of similar to Crossout was Robocraft. I used to play that a lot when it was back before I think they ruined it. But that was kind of building for tanks and stuff. That was actually around the time when I started playing War Thunder, which is about
Oh man,
3 or 4 years ago.
Your story is exactly my story. Carry on.
And so I played Robocraft, and then I stopped playing it for a while, came back, they ruined it. And I loved playing War Thunder, but my PC was so garbage that I could barely manage 15 FPS with minimum settings. So I didn't play it as much as I wish I could have. And I ended up getting up to like the Tiger, I think. And then when I got my PlayStation, I realized, oh, I can play War Thunder on this. But unfortunately, you can't carry a PC account over to PS4. You can do it vice versa, but you can't do it that way. So I had to restart from scratch. But now that I knew actually how to play the game from playing some other games like World of Tanks and stuff between that time, I was able to grind up like considerably quicker through the tree. So I'm far further than I was when I left that other account.
So what did it feel like starting over again?
It was actually kind of nice because it gives you the opportunity to say, okay, last time I did this, I ground out this way, and I had absolutely no direction. But now I came back into it, and I knew, okay, these tanks I actually want to go and get because I liked them, so I'm able to grind up that way. And a lot of the things that I try to ingrain into people that I play with is do not grind one line of vehicles. You want to grind all of them at once. Maybe you're not interested in tank destroyers, so you can skip that line, but don't overlook one line just solely because you want to go straight for that mouse or straight for that M103. Do the other lines, because even if you don't play the vehicles, you can use them as backups later in your lineups. Because the worst thing is being in a 5-7 match, you die in a Tiger, and then you have nothing to spawn in.
Yeah, good point. And it also gives you a more broad experience. Your tactical tool belt gets heavier and more dangerous, and as a machinist, you know, it's good to have the right tool for the job, and that applies just as much to tactics and strategies as it does to destroying a Tiger the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, very much so.
So your experiences in War Thunder have been growing up along with you. You've spent some of the strong years of your young manship. Is that a weird saying? But you've almost grown up from a teenager into a legit young man over the course of your War Thunder career, and that sort of shows in the way that you talk about War Thunder. And another one of the things that I've noticed about you during our conversation is that you seem to be a project-minded individual. You relate to your past and your goals for the future in a sort of, what did I accomplish and how did I accomplish it kind of way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that is a very good explanation of that. Actually, better than I could have come up with.
That's what I do. So, you're the kind of person that presumably, this is my guess, that you find your satisfaction in a job well done.
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoy finishing. The best time for me when I make a video is when I finished it and when I first uploaded it, even before the comments and stuff, because it's just when it gets up, I see that green $sign beside it, knowing that it's not demonetized, and then just being like, all right, now let's see what the work is actually going to get me. Because you never know when you put up a video. Like, you could put up something that you spent hours on and it gets you 20 views, or you could put up something that you literally clipped out of gameplay and it gets you 30,000 views. I've had both of those happen.
Yeah, you are definitely not alone in that experience. On the daily grind, making videos, and that's the thing with YouTube, is that it's one of those things that you can get up every day and put some work into it and then eventually have it turn into something. So it's a good thing and a bad thing. You can get burned out pretty easy. So on that topic, what do you do to relax? Do you get stressed out when it comes to playing War Thunder or making videos? And then what do you do to take your mind off of things?
Making videos has never really been something that stresses me out because it's always been a hobby to me, so I don't really let it get to me. There's times where it can be irritating if I'm having issues with like copyright claims and stuff like that, but that's not really that big of a deal that I've experienced, at least. But it definitely can be an issue playing War Thunder, especially with how the game is right now, where it seems like they're not really fixing things that need to be fixed, but they're just adding more stuff. So it can get to the point where especially in the last couple of weeks, I've gotten to the point where I want to play something. I want to play War Thunder, but I just can't bring myself to play it because it will just drive me up the wall. So I just try to... I've been trying to play other games and stuff, but it hasn't really been working, so I've kind of just been coming up with ideas, working on videos on the side a little bit, just trying to keep the time passing while I wait until a couple of the projects that I'm working on right now come to fruition, but that's not in the foreseeable future that I know of for at least one of them.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. Your desire to control your future is again poured into expanding your work into new projects, which is one of the reasons why our culture can enjoy so many of the finer things in life, because there's people like you solving their problems by actually getting things done. And I was just thinking while you were describing it that your relationship with War Thunder, and this is by no means limited to you yourself only, is almost like a relationship with a girl with a nice body and a bad attitude.
Yeah, definitely.
So on that subject, you're a man, you're 19, you've noticed things. Have you had a girlfriend? Any crushes? Spill or don't. It's up to you.
I have not been in any relationships. I have definitely had crushes in the past, but it's never really been something that I've tried to, I guess, go after per se. I've always kind of been more of like a keep to myself kind of person. It's not so much that I'm too shy to really go and talk to people. That's not really an issue to me, but it's just kind of, I know that there will be a time when I will date and eventually find someone, but I'm not worried about it right now because there's other stuff that I can be concerned about.
Yeah, that sounds strikingly familiar to my own decision, and I gotta tell you that it worked out for me. I have a story about how I met my wife, and she's definitely the perfect woman for me. I get the suspicion that your parents were probably a good example for you and continue to be. It really is something special to be married for, they would have been married for how long now? Over 19 years, right?
Let's see. They were married, 4 years before I was born, so they're pretty close to their 25th, I believe.
Congratulations to them. That really is something incredible. I'm proud of them. It's a huge help to the kids to have parents that are still committed to each other after so long. And on that subject, do you feel that your parents have taught you anything specific that you could share with us?
Well, they've definitely taught me to be, I guess, self-sufficient would be one word, but my dad's always been he's kind of the do-it-yourself kind of guy. He's very, like, he will try to fix anything, even if he really shouldn't, because from my grandfather down to him, they both built houses. My dad went and became a machinist, but he still wants to go back and build houses again because that's what he really likes to do. And I think that's kind of part of why he likes to try to fix everything. Like, even my cars and stuff that I have, he will always try to fix them himself, which is nice because I can learn from him. But it's also a
Yeah.
little annoying when I'm like, we need to fix this, and he's just so busy because he's doing other stuff that
Yeah.
it's kind of I just end up waiting, which is part of the reason why I have so many vehicles in my collection now.
Yeah, that again sounds strikingly familiar. I'm just completely addicted to learning, and that's one of the reasons that I do these. It's just for my own personal enjoyment. And the thing about fixing something is it's already broken, so it's not as much of a risk to pull it open and see how it ticks. And then, even if you can't fix it, you learn things, and you often learn why you can't fix it, which is a lesson in and of itself. Yeah, I think it's well and truly lost.
Oh, I have that all the time. That's part of the reason why when I'll be at work or something and I'll have an idea that'll pop up into my head for a video, I have to write it down because otherwise it'll be gone for at least another week before I get it back, if I ever get it back. So you'll notice on my desk a lot of times, if you ever, I don't really have any videos on my desk, but if I were to ever have one, you'd probably see little slips of like yellow papers here and there where I've like scrawled down an idea while I'm at work and then I tuck it in my pocket. I actually did it today because I had an idea for just something stupid to make, but my memory is so bad sometimes that I just have to write it down, otherwise I forget.
So that's an interesting topic. There are YouTube video ideas that you've come up with in a moment of inspiration, and I suspect that a large number of those have just disappeared as new things take their place. Is there one that you hold particularly dear? Was there an inspired video that just never happened?
Oh man, there's a couple inspired videos for sure that they haven't. It's not that they haven't happened because I'm not going to make them. It's more that they haven't happened because I can't make them yet. Because for some of them, I need a space to record that I can hold a green screen in. And I will not go into detail with this because I'm very protective about my own ideas. Like, I won't even talk to people that I play games with about my ideas half the time because I swear if I say anything, even if it's not them, the idea somehow gets used somewhere else. It's really weird. Like, yep. I'll come up with an idea and then somebody else does it while I'm still working on the project, which
Mark Zuckerberg is listening.
I don't know, but even like if you saw the thing where I edited over the Gillette ad, that actually was originally supposed to be part of the most recent meme compilation. I was going to use a portion of it, but I ended up the clip that I wanted to use wasn't going to work, so I just decided to screw it and just edit the entire video, which was good because a lot of people liked it, but that took me a lot longer than I expected to finish. And that's happened a couple times. But there's a few projects, like there's a specific one that I said was going to come out in August that still has not been finished. And it's not really for lack of me having time to work on it. I just have been focused on other stuff. But that'll be coming out eventually. I never really have an ETA on any of my videos. I kind of just do them as I see fit and then upload them.
Well, that makes sense. And you have the advantage of being able to make your own material, and you have a gaming PC now. You came from nothing to where a PlayStation was a step up for you, and you've been building your skills and your hardware ever since then. You mentioned that you have a few cars, and could I ask about those cars? Do they have their own character? Which one's your favorite? Go ahead and tell us.
So when I was in 8th grade, my dad had ended up seeing a 1977 Volkswagen Beetle on the side of the road, a convertible Super Beetle. And I sort of just kind of fell in love with the car because my dad actually, he owns a 65 that he's kind of been restoring, but hasn't gotten very far. But I just sort of, I saw the car and I couldn't get it out of my head, and my aunt ended up actually buying it for me, and then I was able to work it off with her. So that was my first car that I drove to school, was a 77 convertible Super Beetle, white, triple white. So they only made one per dealership in the U.S., so it's one of 1,000 or so that existed. And I learned how to drive stick as my first car, and it's definitely helped me because I don't know if you've noticed if you've played War Thunder, but one of my pet peeves is the shifting patterns that the drivers have, because
it's horrible.
It is awful. They're going up a hill and they're driving up the hill in 6th gear. It's like, you don't do that.
Yeah.
And that, along with the fact that they remove rolling from the game, which that has been a joke with a lot of the people that I play with, because I don't know when you started playing, but you used to be able to, if you got your transmission knocked out, you could roll back down a hill. Well, now,
now you just
get
instantly
your
stop,
engine
right?
or transmission shot out, and you cannot move. I've actually had a situation where I was on such a steep hill. As I was repairing, my tank was sliding backwards, but despite me putting it in neutral, I couldn't roll backwards. So that's one thing that I would like them to fix, but I don't foresee it happening anytime soon. But other than that, when I started working at my first job, I needed something that could get me further to work across the highway than the Beetle, because the Beetle's a good car, but it's, like my dad says a lot of times, it's a toy. It's an antique, so I don't want to beat on it too much. So he ended up finding an 87 Porsche 924 on Craigslist that we were able to pick up.
Oh my gosh.
For
you have such cool cars.
Picked it up for like,
keep going.
I think it was like $1,200 or something like that. It wasn't running when we got it, or I think it did run, the guy said. I don't remember exactly, but we were able to get it running. But that thing turned out to be a money pit, and I have a love-hate relationship with that car. I absolutely love it because it's a cool car, but I hate it because we got it running. I put all new tires on it and everything, and then luckily all of this happened after I ended up not working at that other place after, but I was driving it back to work, 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, so it wasn't really a bad commute. But it was almost like I think it was the week after, or like the day after they decided not to keep me. I was driving my sister to a dentist appointment, I think, and it just stopped. And what ended up happening was there's a computer system that controls all of the fuel injection, and it just absolutely crapped itself, and it was like a $600 computer that I had to buy. So that got sent in. Luckily, it had a core charge, so I got half of that back. But that was the beginning of the end for that car, because next it was I forgot, when we first got it, the issue wasn't the engine or anything. There's a damper plate on that thing that transfers the engine to the transmission, and it's essentially it's like an aluminum kind of triangle looking thing. It's kind of hard to explain, but it has a aluminum or a rubber bit in the center that transfers the energy to keep it from vibrating a ton, and those have a tendency to dry out and crack, and it was completely shot. So I had to go ahead and buy a new one of those, which was like $1,000, because Porsches are not cheap to fix, that's for sure. So we fixed that.
I'll bet a lot of the parts come from overseas too, don't they?
Oh, it's not so much that they come from overseas, it's just they don't really make that part anymore. It's weird. Like, it's a hard part to find because they didn't make a lot of automatics, and that was an automatic, which should have been a red flag, but we did not know what we were getting into. But we ended up getting that fixed, and then the computer busted. We fixed that, and then we were using it to, like, we kind of either take my dad's truck to work or take my car to work, and we go to drive it one day, and there'd been like minor issues with the thing, like the shifter knob broke and I just hadn't fixed it yet. But the biggest issue was when I put it into drive and it didn't go anywhere because the transmission crapped itself. So that was another like 6 months that the thing sat. I ordered parts. We tried to fix the transmission. Now it goes in reverse and drive, but it doesn't shift after that.
It's almost like a Porsche Tiger.
Luckily, it didn't set on fire, but it almost would have been better if it
Not
did.
yet.
So we were looking around trying to find an automatic transmission to replace it. We'd been trying to, but they just like don't exist. There's like one in California, but we didn't know if it was any good or not. So we ended up finding a black 944 that someone was selling it was about an hour drive away from where I live, and it had I think what we ended up figuring out on it is it has a blown head gasket, so the motor's junk, but I ended up getting it for like $650, and it was driving like in very, very good condition, all things considered.
Dude, you get great deals.
So
those are some great prices.
So we ended up getting that thing on the trailer, which was quite interesting because it has a chin plate on the front that like an air splitter, and it's so low to the ground we could barely get it on the trailer without like breaking it. So we ended up getting that, and then nothing really happened with that. I've had it, and I'm probably going to use it for parts for the other car that I have, which is a red 944 that I bought because I got sick of waiting, and I ended up seeing it online for a pretty decent price. So that's what I have for my daily driver right now, a red 944.
You know, between YouTube, War Thunder, and your cars, I'm starting to see why you don't have time for a girlfriend.
I couldn't afford one.
Oh yeah, trust me, the maintenance on them is even higher than the cars you were talking about. So, you've made the right decision. You'll have to be in a position to give her your full attention and let her change your life for a few years. Otherwise you won't be giving her the care and maintenance that she needs. So, it's been great talking with you. I feel like I got some good material for a video. Was there anything else that came up that you didn't get a chance to talk about?
I don't think so. If there's anything that you think of, you're free to ask me again when I have a chance.
Yeah, I'll keep in touch. I'm interested to see where your channel goes. I like what I've seen, and now that I know that you're a car guy, I'll be able to shift some other car guys in your direction. So, oh, by the way, it was very brave of you to set foot in the public area of my Discord server. It's sort of a wild place right now. We just got a bunch of people come in, and people like Puma and AC and Butler. They're all people that have been new and really active, and it was really cool seeing you show up in the Discord and just get mobbed real quick by people. And yeah, it's been nice talking with you. I look forward to turning this into a video. So yeah, thanks for your time, and it's been really interesting getting to know you and hearing about what makes you tick. That's definitely something that I was interested in finding out, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. So I'll catch you later.
Yep.